Have you ever been taken advantage of through a scam or some fraudulent activity? Stay tuned and listen to our Attorney General, Dana Nessel. We are so thrilled to have you with us again, Attorney General. You have been like a whirlwind throughout all of Michigan, looking out for the best interest of older adults. So we're very happy to have you here again with us today, talking about some of the legislation and some of the efforts and activities that you have undertaken for older adults to make certain that they're protected from scams and other things. But first, let's talk about you just for a minute. Tell us again, remind us about why you got involved in this work, why you're sitting in that seat. What was your passion that drove you to want to be the Attorney General for the great state of Michigan?
Boy, it's hard to remember now. No, you know what? I think that when you see things in the news and they upset you and you feel like, why isn't somebody doing something about that? It really sometimes propels you to want to be in a position where you can do something about that. And I think I got tired of complaining about things on Facebook or social media, or just felt like I was screaming into the wind. And the position of Michigan Attorney General is one with a lot of responsibility, but a lot of authority too. And there are so many ways that, through our authority, statutorily, constitutionally, we have a difference. We have the ability to make a difference in the lives of so many people in our state. And so, I get 8 years. You only get 2 4-year terms. So I'm trying to cram in as much stuff as possible, get as many things as possible done, and I hope leave the state better off than when I started.
What are you most proud of so far? I mean, you still got a lot of work to do, and it's important work. But so far, what are you most proud of?
Well, I that's like saying, which one
child
of your
do you
kids
love the most?
do you love? With me,
Right.
Do you have a favorite? Yes, I do. I have so many great staffers, attorneys, and special agents, and support staff. I mean, I have the best office in the world, I feel like. And they do such great work on behalf of the people of this state. But I would say my consumer protection team, is bar none. I mean, just some of the best staff in the state, I would say in the country. And we have so many different initiatives that fall under that umbrella. But a lot of it has to do with protecting seniors, because a lot of times seniors are the ones that need the most protection. And I think they've done a phenomenal job, but we're still trying to do a lot more.
And we know that seniors, particularly like older adults, those are 50 and older, are the most likely victims of any kind of fraudulent activity. I won't say victims, but they're the most likely people to be victims of fraud. I guess that's the best way to say that. Why is that?
It's funny. I think that most people presume that the reason why seniors get taken advantage of is because they are older. The hope, I guess, is that they're not as sharp mentally as they once were. But what I've come to see, that's not really the reason. It's simply because seniors have more money than all the other generations, because for seniors, you spent your entire life saving up for retirement. So you might have a nest egg that's put away somewhere. And also for folks who are on Social Security at a certain age, there's a constant source of income that, let's face it, for Gen Z, for millennials, they just don't have that money there. So there's really more money to go after.
And I know, many of our members will tell and talk about and testify that they're getting calls all the time, people wanting fraudulent activities, whether it's romance scams, whether it's the nephew or the grandson is missing or needs some help somewhere. And sometimes it's just, like during the holidays when the people were calling saying that we're trying to deliver a package to you and the package can't be delivered. What should people do when they get those kind of calls?
Well, I know it can be overwhelming because whether it's, calls or text messages or emails or things that, occur in person, somebody coming to your door. I mean, there's just so much of it. And I think it leaves a lot of people feeling overwhelmed and helpless. But there are some, ways to detect if something is a scam and to avoid it generally. And so what we tell people, first of all, look for the telltale signs. If the request that you're getting is either a financial request, maybe they want a credit card number or your bank account information, or if it's personal information like your Social Security number or your date of birth or your physical address, always be careful if those are the things that someone is seeking to get from you, and always just stop if that's the material that they're seeking. It really could be a scam. The other components to it, though, are, no matter what kind of scam you have, whether it's a, romance scam or whether it has to do with a tax-related scheme or something related to a natural disaster, really they always have the same basic ingredients and elements. So you'll have, for instance, an emergency. It's always got to be something urgent that causes you to act right away, and you don't have time to think about it, and you just have to do something immediately. When that happens, everyone should just take a deep breath, pause, and not immediately provide the financial information or the personal information, and just think about it and say, I'm going to get back to you, and not immediately respond to a text message or a phone call or an email. And do your due diligence to find out whoever's reaching out, are they really who they say they are? And to never just respond directly to a link in a text message or an email, or to provide information to somebody on the phone who's called you. Always make sure that you are the one that's reaching out to the phone number or the website that you know is legitimate, and not just giving information out when someone reaches out to you. So as long as people are always doing that, it is a way to stay safe. And we also recommend looking for other things, right? Like unusual forms of payment that are requested. If someone says that
gift cards, right?
Gift cards. I mean, why would your electric company want to be paid in, Amazon gift cards? I mean, at the time when it's requested, it might seem reasonable, but if you actually take time to think about it, it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Or cryptocurrency. I don't know a single company that can only be paid
in crypto.
And if that's what they're suggesting, you should know that's a scam.
Absolutely. And people don't have to answer the phone. If caller ID is my favorite friend sometimes. You look, you don't recognize the number, or even if you do anymore with AI, just let them leave a message. You don't have to answer the phone all the time.
And we really recommend that if it's not in your contact list, just, download an app or have somebody do it for you like I do with my kids, and have that call go right to voicemail. If it's important, they'll leave a message.
Absolutely.
But also, don't trust your caller ID. Spoofing is a real problem, and I think it's important for people to know that these con artists can make it appear as though a call is coming from any number.
Right.
So it might really be the number of your bank or your credit union or a business or the state of Michigan. I actually had a friend of mine who came over to my house, and she was being scammed. It was a license and regulatory scam that was pretty complex, but she showed me the phone and it said it was coming from the state of Michigan. And they said they were calling from the Department of Attorney General. And I said,
whoa.
So I took the phone and I was like, hello, this is the Attorney General. Click. I mean, it's really scary. I'm not saying you'll never get a call from any of those places, but what I'm saying is if they reach out to you, never provide that information. Find out who you're talking to, and then independently research the phone number and then call back. And maybe it really is who they purported to be, but maybe you'll find out that it was a scam that you just avoided.
Absolutely. You have done so much to try to protect, particularly older adults or anyone really, from being victims of fraud. The Centennial Project, you talked a bit about that. Some of the legislation that you've introduced that helps with that. Some of the legislation that was recently signed that looks at older adults and making certain that they're not, that there's some repercussions if they become, I hate the word victim, but if they become, someone abuses their or someone is, what's another word besides victim? I hate that word because we don't want to be victims.
Take advantage of?
Take advantage.
Yeah.
Duh. Take advantage of older adults. So you talk about some of the legislation you've introduced that's been signed and some of that's still pending and what people can do.
Yeah, well, some legislation that I'm so passionate about has to do with the elder abuse package that passed through the House and now is awaiting hearings in the Senate. And it really has to do with just providing the very best protections we can for individuals, whether they're seniors, whether they're other vulnerable adults who have, guardians or conservators. and just making sure that that process best protects the people that it's meant to protect. We don't think that it does right now. And, we have this package of bills that we didn't just come up with these overnight. It's for 30 years through 3 task forces have come up with these recommendations all the way back into the Granholm years it started. So our Elder Abuse Task Force, which of course the AARP is a member of, thank you, we have 50 senior advocacy organizations that are involved, 50 orgs, over 100 people. They've all come together, in a bipartisan way to come up with the exact same recommendations. And what these bills would do essentially is just to ensure for both, a person who is under guardianship or conservatorship, or for their family members, that everybody is just properly protected. We see a lot of abuses in that system. We can do better. And we will do better.
Absolutely.
If these bills pass. We're really encouraging people to contact their state senator, contact the governor's office and say, we want these guardianship bills to move forward and to be enacted into law.
And we hear that all the time, and the bills are on the screen right now if you're interested in contacting your state legislator, elected official to get them moving. But we hear that all the time. We do a lot with financial planning, Social Security, and people are saying you've got to be careful with family members, guardianship, people coming in, taking powers of attorney, durable powers of attorney, et cetera, for older adults, and they're the ones who are actually abusing a lot of the older adults. So anything that helps to protect them is we're supportive of, anything at all.
Yeah, and there's just no reason that Michigan can't follow best practices that they have in other states.
You said 38 states or something have some kind of law? Or?
We're really behind the curve when it comes to all kinds of things. Another thing that I know we talked about is identity theft and how we just don't have the proper protections in place to ensure that a business or a company or some other entity that has all your personal information, that in the event they get hacked, which is happening more and more nowadays, that they have to contact you and let you know that, your information might be floating around
get over that.
on the dark web. Yeah, and it's not just that, but they don't have to contact the Department of Attorney General so that we can help people and help them navigate this system. And we don't even, at our department, have the same investigatory powers that most other AG's offices have. So when we have a major hack, and I'll give you an example, one of the biggest was the Corewell Health hacks. Over 1 million Michigan residents were affected. And it wasn't just people's social security numbers or their home addresses. It was the most sensitive information a person has, their medical information, their prescriptions, the laboratory tests they had done, their diagnoses, all out there on the dark web. And here people didn't even find out about it for 6 months or more. And we have to rely on other states to investigate this matter because it's a multi-state breach, because we don't have the authority to investigate without just, a company voluntarily working with us. If they don't have to, they don't want to be liable for that. And again, we just want companies to utilize best procedures and practices. And let's face it, if somebody is storing that kind of personal information from you, and you're not using best practices and procedures, maybe you shouldn't be in that line of work. It's not just older adults, right?
Yeah, right.
So if you look at just people over the age of 16, in the United States, about 9% of all Americans have been the victims of identity theft sometime in the last year.
Wow.
So it's not just older adults. It can happen to anyone. There are certain scams that specifically target younger generations too. But here's the problem. I think with older adults, nobody wants someone else to think, oh, well, maybe this person is not as mentally acute as they once were. And maybe they have, intellectually they're diminishing. So they won't report it for that reason. And in the meantime, someone is out there utilizing their information to do all kinds of nefarious things, and we could be helping them. So my message is to older adults in Michigan, please, you have to report this. You can't wait. The sooner that that we know about it, that you've reported it, then the sooner we can start to help you. And at the Department of Attorney General, we have a program called the Michigan Identity Theft Support System, MITS. You can call us You report that you've been a victim of identity theft. We assign you a caseworker, and we literally walk you through every single step of the process to help you regain your good name. But you know what? We can't help you
if you don't speak up.
If you don't tell us about it, if you don't tell someone. And the other reason why it's important to report these scams, even if you haven't fallen victim to it, is if you report it to us, we can put a notification out and an alert, and I know that you do this with us as well, so that we let other people know. Maybe you were savvy enough to avoid this scam, but not everybody will be. But if they hear about it and they know about it, then they'll know what to watch out for.
Absolutely, and that's so important. It's one of the top 3 issues that older adults tell us they're most concerned about every time we do a survey. And they can go on, you see the website on the screen, you can go and type in your zip code on the ARP site, and it's linked to your office. And if I'm living in the 48933 zip code, I can type that in and see what scams are going on in that community. Then I can tell my neighbor, I can tell my church group, I can tell my synagogue, I can tell whomever, and it helps to prevent you from being taken advantage of.
And you could say like, oh wait, I heard about that scam. I'm not falling for that.
Right. Talk a little bit more about the Sentinel project.
So we're really excited about this. One of the concerns that I had as I was traveling around the state at the beginning of my time in office were all the complaints about, the condition of some licensed nursing home facilities in the state of Michigan. We have over 100,000 Michigan residents that are in nursing homes right now. And honestly, like most nursing homes, they are doing their best, trying their hardest, have caring owners and the staff, they love the residents. But that doesn't mean that it's not without problems. And one of the issues we identified is even though LARA, which is the License and Regulatory Agency, they are in charge of ensuring that a home is compliant with licensing regulations. But what they do is when there are complaints, they have scheduled visits. And that's great, but I would always look at this as, a prosecutor and say, well, if there is a problem, right? Let's say I suspected that somebody was, stashing, drugs or illegal weapons, and I got a search warrant, I probably wouldn't call them up and say, hey, just so you know, next Tuesday, 2 p.m., I'm going to be at your home looking for illegal guns and drugs. So to me, I thought we really need to start having these visits be unscheduled. So you can make complaints directly to our department. And if we see that there are a number of complaints that are associated with a particular facility, we will go to that facility and we have an entire team of investigators, we have a nurse. We will go, any time of day or night, any place in the state. We've done 40 just in the last year in 18 different counties. And our staff will sit down, we'll talk to the staff at the facility, we'll talk to all the residents, we'll talk to the family members. And if there are problems, sort of get to the bottom of it, and we'll look at things like, what is the ratio of staff to residents? How's the wound care? Are there any issues associated with the changing of bandages? UTIs, are there a lot of residents that have those? If so, there might be some sort of a problem. And a lot of other issues that we'll evaluate. And we're not trying to shut down homes. We're really not. We just want them to be in the best possible place to best serve the residents who live there. So do we sometimes have to charge people with crimes? Yes, it has happened. Sometimes we find that a nurse is working there who's not even licensed. Sometimes we find that medication has been diverted. In one instance, we found an older woman who unfortunately was suffering from dementia, and she wandered off, left the facility, wasn't being watched, and died of hypothermia.
Oh, wow.
So that generated charges. But most of the time, what we're doing is we're just trying to work with the ownership, work with the staff, and just to do follow-ups to make sure that if there are any problems, how do we get those problems corrected so that these homes are best servicing the residents who live there. That's all.
And during COVID, there were so many issues and concerns that people had. So if someone has a loved one in a nursing home or long-term care facility, what should they do if they see something that they're concerned about? We've got about a minute left. What should they do?
Just make a complaint to our office. You can file one online. I know a lot of times people worry about, is this confidential, because they don't want any kind of retribution for their family member. And it will be. But we'll go to that facility and we'll check it out and make sure that that facility is safe for that individual.
Thank you so much for the work that you're doing, and particularly for that. I mean, like you said, people sometimes don't have a choice. You have to put a loved one into a long-term care nursing home facility. You know, you'd love to keep them at home as long as possible, but to be able to know that they're safe. I mean, just some of the basic things, that their wounds, like you said, their bandages and the wounds are being taken care of. It just makes all the difference for someone who has a loved one in one of those facilities. We've got about 30 seconds or so left. What would you like to share in our last, what is it, about a minute and a half?
We have such an amazing consumer protection website. It's brand new. We just put it together, and it's really easy to navigate. But honestly, like whatever your consumer protection needs are, we encourage people to go to the website and to surf around. There'll be videos. There'll be, easy to understand issues that people are facing and how to get help for it. And here's the thing: your government can provide all the resources in the world, but it doesn't matter if you don't know about them.
Exactly.
So this is a great way for people to educate themselves on what services are available through their state government.
You have been such a champion for these issues, and we appreciate you say you are the People's Attorney General, and I think that was part of your campaign. How many years is it? 6 years ago now?
Yeah.
About 6 years ago now, and you have proven that to be true over and over again, and really just a real advocate for all the things that AARP is concerned about, as well as it relates to older adults and protecting them. Consumer protection is just a major, major issue. So thank you so much for your service, for your work. I know it hasn't been easy. I think when you started, you didn't have security.
Yeah, but I really appreciate the partnership with AARP, and I have to say this, I do senior town halls all over the state of Michigan. I've done countless ones. It's the best part of my job. The very best part of my job is working with seniors around this state.
You've always said that. From the day one, you've said that, and you've proven it to be true, because you're here today again, and there are a lot of seniors watching you today. So thank you for what you do. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for your great work, Paula.
Thank you. You take care. Transportation. When we think of transportation, we automatically think of CATA. Thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
What's the best mode of transportation someone should think about for a loved one?
Sure. So CATA has two types of transportation services. Fixed route are those 40 and 60-foot long buses that you see on the street, and those are scheduled to serve designated bus stops and transportation hubs throughout the system. Most people don't know we also have paratransit services that are curb-to-curb demand response services, but we also have SpecTran, which is for individuals who are certified by a physician with a disability.
So that's actually three different types of transportation. The general transportation that you get, that just the regular bus, the big 40, what did you say, 40?
40 and 60-foot.
60-foot bus, and then the curb-to-curb, and then SpecTran. How do you know which one's best for a loved one?
Really, it depends on what your need is. If you have mobility, the ability to move around and look at schedules and figure that out, the regular fixed route services are the best, and they are the most affordable. If you have a disability that makes mobility a little bit more challenging for you, SpecTran is also a good service for those individuals.
And how much in advance do you need to call to schedule?
You can schedule it as much as 2 weeks in advance, but it is a one-day advance notice.
Well, that's great information that everybody should know. So if they have some questions, they can just go to the CATA website and look this up and find out what transportation mode is best for them.
That's correct.
Great. Thank you so much for being here, Lola. Appreciate you.
Thank you, Paula.
Chris, thank you for being here today.
My
Appreciate
pleasure.
that. What should people know as they begin their retirement planning?
Well, I think there's three key things or threats that people need to take into account when they're planning for retirement. And the first threat that we have to watch out for is market volatility. We don't want someone's 401k to become a 201k right as we're going into retirement, because we're going to have to draw on those assets. And the second key is to understand tax planning. I think taxes right now are one of the biggest risks and biggest opportunities based on our current tax laws. And then the third key is planning for long-term care. Planning for the devastating cost of long-term care, a nursing home cost which could run $10,000 to $15,000 a month.
Wow, market volatility, long-term care, and tax risk, those are huge.
Right.
And a person can't do that on their own. They need to really find a professional to help walk them through that, correct?
Correct.
And some of the benefits of having a plan for long-term care means that you don't have to figure out how to put someone loved one in a nursing home or do something different. So talk a little bit more about that. We hear that frequently about the expense associated with long-term care.
Right. So as a certified elder law attorney, I see people take what we call the elder care journey of needing home care, then maybe assisted living, and maybe needing nursing home care. And so as an elder law attorney, we help families navigate that to make sure, A, the person gets the best care possible, and then B, to make sure that maybe the surviving or the healthy spouse isn't completely impoverished having to pay for that.
That's really important. We hear that frequently. And then the taxes, I don't hear that very often. You know, the taxes can have a tremendous impact on what you think your nest egg is versus what the actual net income is.
Right, exactly. So if you have pre-tax accounts like 401ks, IRAs, understand those are always going to be taxed. And with the current tax changes, we know that taxes are going up in the future. Plus, we're $32 trillion in debt as a country, so a lot of people think taxes might have to go up a lot more. And if taxes go up, the value of those accounts go down.
Ouch. The key word here is to plan. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kevin Duffy. I'm a physician assistant from Great Lakes Center of Rheumatology. I'm here to talk to you today about hand pain. Many people present to their physician with hand pain, and some of the symptoms they complain of are achy pain, stiffness in the morning, can't hold on to things, numbness, tingling. If you have those issues, it's probably worthwhile trying to figure out what's wrong. Some of the causes of hand pain can be just wear and tear, osteoarthritis, it can be rheumatoid arthritis, carpal tunnel syndrome. You could have a pinched nerve in your neck. And so that for that reason, a lot of people say, well, what should I do for my hand pain? I think the best thing to do is contact your primary care physician to start. They may order x-rays, which could shed some light on what your problem is. They may try you on non-steroidal anti-inflammatory medicines or Tylenol. If some of those work, I would stay with conservative treatments. If the symptoms persist, you may want to request a referral to a specialist. You might want to see an orthopedic surgeon, orthopedic hand surgeon, and or a rheumatologist. Occasionally, you might need to see a physical medicine rehab doctor if you need nerve studies done. But some of the testing you can do are x-rays. Different forms of arthritis have different kinds of x-rays. And so once you figure out what your definitive diagnosis is, you can formulate a treatment plan, which would consist of NSAIDs, physical therapy, occupational therapy. If you have an autoimmune disease, you may need more advanced treatment, such as biologic drugs and advanced imaging. But at any rate, if you see your PCP and get the correct referrals, I'm sure you could feel better.
There's so much information here, and the worst thing you could do is not share it with someone else. Please talk to your friends and neighbors about the information you've heard today. News that you can use. Thanks for watching.